On July 17, 2024, Catalina Gutierrez's body was found in the back seat of her mother's car. Catalina had asked her mother to borrow the car so she could go to the mall and play bowling with her boyfriend and some friends. The car was abandoned about 1.25 miles from Catalina's house and had been partially burned. The authorities immediately began a search for the person responsible for the crime and ended up discovering that he was closer than they imagined. Catalina Gutierrez was born in 2003 in Gutierrez, a municipality that belongs to the Rio Cuarto department, in the province of Córdoba in Argentina. She was the daughter of the couple Marcelo Gutierrez and Eleonora Vollenweider, who in addition to her have another daughter named Lucia Gutierrez, who is older than Catalina. Marcelo is a renowned architect, responsible for leading several important projects in Argentina, while Eleonora dedicated herself exclusively to her family. When Catalina was still little, her family moved to the city of Córdoba. Córdoba is the second most populous city in Argentina and capital of the province of the same name, and it was in Córdoba that Catalina grew up with her sister Lucia, to whom she was very attached. According to people close to her, Catalina demonstrated an enormous curiosity for things and a desire to learn from a very young age. She enjoyed traveling, playing the guitar, singing, and in her free time she recorded songs with her father. Marcelo's profession as an architect had a strong influence on his daughter, who decided that she would follow her father's career. Therefore, after finishing high school, Catalina entered the National University of Córdoba, where she began to study architecture. It is said that at university Catalina made many friends who described her as a happy and friendly person. In addition to dedicating her time to her family, college, and friends, Catalina also dedicated her time to her social networks. Just like everyone her age, Catalina was active on the internet. She used to post photos of her travels, her dog, and the trips she took with her friends to the city's bars. She also used to post several videos in which she appears singing in some of them. Although Catalina saw this as just a hobby and didn't expect any return, she ended up going viral on the internet and in a short time gained several followers. At the time of the events, she had more than 115,000 followers on Instagram and more than 47,000 on TikTok. In the year 2024, Catalina met a boy named Ezekiel. Ezekiel studied at the same university as Catalina, and the two began a relationship. According to people close to them, the two seemed quite in love with each other, and these people never imagined what was to come. On July 17, 2024, Catalina asked to borrow her mother's car, a second-generation Renault Clio. She had planned to meet her boyfriend and her college friends at a mall to go bowling. At this point in the story, Catalina was 21 years old and in the last days of her college vacation, so she wanted to make the most of these days. Even though Catalina and her sister Lucia were already adults, their mother Eleonora didn't like her daughters going out at night. The city of Córdoba, like all large cities, has certain dangers for its residents. Because of this, Eleonora didn't want to let Catalina go out that night. However, Catalina told her mother that she would be safe, that she would be in a mall surrounded by friends, and that she wanted to enjoy the last days of her college vacation. Even though Eleonora was afraid, she allowed her daughter to leave and lent her vehicle. The woman told her daughter that she was supposed to keep in constant contact with her, letting her know when she arrived at the mall, letting her know if everything was okay there, and also letting her know when she was returning home. Catalina agreed to everything, and after that she said goodbye to her mother and left in the car around 9 p.m. Before leaving, she sent a voice message to Ezekiel, saying she was already on her way, and asked him to wait for her in the mall parking lot, but Catalina never showed up. As time passed, Ezekiel and Catalina's other friends found it strange that she hadn't arrived at the mall yet. The journey from Catalina's house to the mall takes about 15 minutes by car, and by that point it had already been more than 30 minutes. Ezekiel and his friends tried to call Catalina several times, but she didn't answer any of the calls. They also sent numerous messages and none of them were responded to. Ezekiel then decided to call Lucia, Catalina's sister. He asked if Catalina had returned home, but Lucia replied that her sister wasn't there. Lucia became desperate and informed her mother about what was happening. A little before 10 p.m., Marcelo arrived home and was informed by his wife about Catalina. Marcelo insistently tried to call his daughter but was unable to speak to her. Desperate, Catalina's parents and sister went to the police station, where they filed a missing person report. Minutes later, Catalina's boyfriend and friends arrived at the police station to provide information. Ezekiel showed authorities the audio his girlfriend had sent that night. While Ezekiel spoke to the police, Catalina's friends called other friends and acquaintances of hers in hopes that someone knew something. Among these people that Catalina's friends contacted was Nestor Daniel Aguilar Soto, 21 years old. Nestor studied architecture together with Catalina and was a great friend of hers. He had moved to Cordoba in 2021 to start his studies at university, and that was how he met Catalina. Nestor had no family in Cordoba. He lived alone in the city, and according to sources, his family is from Bariloche, a tourist city located in the south of Argentina. Upon learning that Nestor was living alone in Cordoba, far from his family, she felt sorry. It is said that Catalina began to invite Nestor to her house frequently, and her family liked the boy. Furthermore, Catalina gave Nestor a ride to university every day, as he lived close to her house and did not have a car. At every party or celebration that took place at Catalina's house, Nestor was a guest. He was also always in the university's working groups together with Catalina. The two had a very strong friendship, and because of this, Catalina's other friends called Nestor thinking he might know something. However, Nestor stated to them that he had not spoken to Catalina that night and did not know where she could be. Nestor expressed concern and said he was going to the police station to help the police with whatever they needed. Upon arriving at the police station, Nestor expressed solidarity with Catalina's family and said he would do everything he could to help find her. In the midst of this, Lucia, Catalina's sister, remembered that months ago she and her sister had activated the location of their cell phones to know the location of each one, and in addition, she had an access key to be able to see where she was. Your sister's phone number. When tracking Catalina's cell phone, the device's location pointed to a neighborhood called Ampliation Kennedy, which is about 125 miles from her house. A police team quickly headed to the indicated location, and there, they found the partially burned vehicle. When searching the car internally, the police found Catalina Gutierrez's body in the back seat. There were no signs of holes in the body caused by gunshots or sharp objects, but there were signs of aggression. The interior of the vehicle had a strong smell of alcohol, as all the seats were wet with this flammable liquid. The police found that whoever committed the crime poured alcohol into the car and then set it on fire. However, the criminal closed the doors, and this meant that the lack of oxygen prevented the fire from consuming the entire car. Catalina's body suffered some burns, but the flames went out before causing any greater damage. Later, Catalina's body was sent for an autopsy to find out exactly what the cause of her death was. At this point, family and friends already knew what had happened to Catalina and were devastated. Nestor was extremely affected by what had happened to his friend and cried a lot alongside Catalina's parents. During the investigation, the police ruled out the possibility of robbery, as all of Catalina's belongings were still with her. As a result, the police began working with the hypothesis of revenge and decided to call everyone close to the victim to give a statement. Among these people, one in particular caught the attention of investigators. This person was Nestor. During his testimony, Nestor said that he had been at his house all night. However, after a few more questions from the investigators, Nestor began to contradict himself. The investigators then decided to ask for his cell phone so that an investigation could be carried out. Nestor handed over his cell phone and was later released by the police. During the examination of his cell phone, investigators discovered that the cell phone's GPS indicated that Nestor was in the same place where Catalina's body was found. After this discovery, the police went to Nestor's house and asked him to accompany them to the police station. At the police station, investigators asked Nestor again where he was on the night of the crime, and again he said he was at home. But as the police asked more questions, Nestor showed nervousness. He looked around, held his hands in anxiety, and even trembled. It was then that Nestor said that he remembered that night He had not been at his house the entire time. According to him, around 8 p.m., he went to practice martial arts, and after that, he returned to his house. When the police asked him if he had communicated with Catalina that day, he stated that he had not. Nestor also responded negatively when asked if he knew that Catalina was going to meet her friends and her boyfriend that night, but the investigators knew he was lying, as one of Catalina's friends had invited him at Catalina's request, who wanted Nestor to come along so they could have fun. When confronted by investigators, Nestor became even more nervous until at one point, after remaining silent for a few minutes, he confessed to the crime. Nestor told investigators that Catalina was the love of his life and that he had taken her life. When Nestor started to confess, the police listened enough and then interrupted him, saying he would need a lawyer. At that point, the police already had the perpetrator in hand, but they still needed to know the dynamics of the crime to understand the motivations. Nestor was preventively arrested. No details of the crime were revealed at that time, and the police continued with the investigations. Nestor's confession took Catalina's friends and family by surprise. Many were incredulous, and some even thought he was making it all up for some reason. Perhaps he was in shock over the loss of his friend. Catalina's parents were those most affected by Nestor's confession. They always treated him very well, and welcomed him into their home as if he were one of the family. Losing their daughter in such a brutal way was already a hard blow for them, but knowing that the perpetrator of the crime was someone so close, someone Catalina liked and trusted, made everything worse. Marcelo Gutierrez said during an interview that Nestor was present at all times after Catalina's disappearance to support the family. Nestor even said he would do everything to find Catalina, and pretended not to know anything about his friend's whereabouts. Lucia Gutierrez said that her sister trusted Nestor a lot, that the two had a very strong friendship, but Catalina never said anything about Nestor wanting anything beyond that friendship. The crime against Catalina Gutierrez had repercussions throughout Córdoba and later throughout the country. Many of his followers on social media regretted what happened and said they were quite shaken by the fact. The case received extensive coverage in the country's media and was reported several times on television. Due to all this repercussion of the case, other girls began to emerge who claimed to have been victims of Nestor. One of them was a young woman whose details were not revealed, who made several publications through social media, in which she stated that she studied with Nestor in high school, and that on several occasions she experienced strange situations with him. According to this girl, Nestor persecuted her throughout her adolescence, and despite her reporting the incident to the school principal, no action was taken. Another girl told an Argentine news channel about a horrible experience she had at a school camp when she was studying with Nestor. According to her, Nestor waited for everyone in the camp to sleep and then went to her tent and tried to force relations with her. The girl said she screamed, and because of that Nestor gave up and ran away. The girl also said that after that Nestor chased her around the school. She, like the other girl, reported Nestor to the school board, but they never listened to her. The girl said she regretted not going to the police and reporting Nestor. She believes that if she had gone, a more vigorous action against Nestor would have been taken. She ended the interview by saying that if the school board had listened to her, perhaps the crime against Catalina could have been avoided. Obviously, neither Catalina nor her family knew about Nestor's dark past. Everyone who knew Nestor in Córdoba said that he was very calm and polite, and that he never showed any bad intentions. The results of the autopsy on Catalina's body revealed that the cause of her death was suffocation, but it was not possible to determine whether hands or any object were used. Catalina showed signs of aggression on her face and arms, but there were no signs of forced relations. It was determined that Catalina was already dead when the criminal set fire to the interior of the vehicle. Catalina was tied and gagged, but it was not possible to know whether this happened before or after she was already dead. This information was important, as it could determine whether Nestor had planned the crime or not. While authorities continued their investigations to better understand the dynamics of the crime, Catalina's family prepared the farewell ceremony. Catalina Gutierrez's wake took place in a cemetery in the city of Córdoba, and was attended by hundreds of people. The family chose to just hold the wake, as they intended to cremate Catalina's body and spread her ashes in Gutierrez, which is the city where Catalina was born. However, they had to wait for authorization from the authorities, as the investigations had not been completed yet, and further analyses of the body might be necessary. Lucia, Catalina's sister, spoke out on social media and asked for justice. Through an emotional video she made in which she compiled photos of her and Catalina together, she said goodbye. She also wrote a letter which she published in this same video post, and which said the following: "You couldn't have been a better sister. Now we are two in one person, and wherever you are, I hope you are at peace. Never leave me alone and always help me. I will need you all my life. Together in this life and in all those that lie ahead. Heaven is celebrating. I love you with all my heart, my guardian angel." As soon as Lucia posted this farewell, several comments from friends, family, and also people who followed the case appeared offering condolences and asking for justice. Lucia later published a photo in which she appears next to Catalina when they were little, and showed a tattoo she got on the inside of her arm with her sister's name and an angel's wing in her honor. During the investigation, the police theorized that Nestor took Catalina's life in his apartment. According to investigators, Nestor lured Catalina to his apartment, claiming he wanted to go to the mall with her. This theory was confirmed after the police had access to images from security cameras located close to Nestor's apartment, and also close to where Catalina's body was found. Thanks to these images, investigators were able to find out what Catalina's last steps were that night. In the images captured by a camera from a house located opposite where Nestor lived, it was possible to see him carrying Catalina's body to the Renault Clio. It was also possible to see how he left Catalina in the back seat, in the same way she was found by authorities. In another video, it was possible to see the vehicle traveling along a street at 10:22 at night. This path, according to authorities, was the path between Nestor's apartment and the place where the car was abandoned with Catalina's body. During a search of Nestor's apartment, the police found a ring that belonged to Catalina. The police don't know exactly how this ring ended up in Nestor's apartment, whether Catalina left it with him of her own free will, or whether he simply took it from her. In addition to the ring, police also found strands of Catalina's hair scattered throughout the apartment. In the washing machine were the clothes that Nestor had worn on the day of the crime. According to authorities, Catalina arrived at Nestor's apartment at 9:30 p.m. on July 17th. An hour later, Nestor abandoned the Renault Clio about 186 miles from where he lived. The police's main line of investigation is that Nestor knew that Catalina was going to the mall to play bowling with her boyfriend and some friends. Nestor had even been invited to go along by Catalina herself, who asked a mutual friend of theirs to invite Nestor. Because of this, it was agreed that Catalina would stop by Nestor's apartment to pick him up so they could go to the mall together. The agreement was that when Catalina arrived at the apartment, Nestor should already be in front of the building waiting for her, so they wouldn't waste time and go straight to the shopping mall. However, when Catalina arrived in front of the building, Nestor was not there. Nestor made an excuse for Catalina and asked her to go up to his apartment. This was all part of his plan. A security camera installed in front of a house in front of the building recorded the moment Catalina got out of the vehicle and entered the building. According to the police, inside the apartment, Nestor would have tried something with Catalina. It is not yet known whether he tried to kiss her or tried to go further. What is known is that Catalina dodged Nestor's advances, and afterwards the two ended up arguing. Nestor then, frustrated and overcome by anger, attacked Catalina until she was unconscious and then suffocated her. Here it is not yet known to the authorities whether Nestor knew that Catalina was dead or not. In any case, he tied and gagged the victim. Nestor then placed Catalina's body in the back seat of the Renault Clio and drove the vehicle to the place where he set it on fire and abandoned it. Nestor set fire to the vehicle with the intention of getting rid of any evidence, as he expected the fire to consume any evidence he had left behind. However, after pouring alcohol inside the vehicle and lighting the fire, Nestor closed the doors with the windows up. This meant that the interior of the vehicle did not have enough oxygen for the flames to consume everything, and within minutes the flames went out. After that, Nestor returned to his apartment. With all this evidence collected during the investigations, Nestor was formally accused of the crime and was kept in prison. During an interview, Marcelo Gutierrez, Catalina's father, said he trusted Argentina's justice system and advised other parents to pay attention to their children's friends. Eleonora, on the other hand, said she didn't know how her life would continue without her daughter. Although the authorities have practically closed the investigations with Nestor being solely responsible for the crime, new information has emerged that suggests that more people were involved in the case. A witness who lives in a house close to where the Renault Clio was abandoned told the police that on the night of the crime he heard the voices of some people arguing in front of his house whether it was better to set the car on fire or not. This witness said he only heard the conversation and was unable to see who these people were. When analyzing images from other security cameras located on streets close to where the Renault Clio was abandoned, investigators saw Nestor turning a corner at 11:01 at night while driving the vehicle. 3 minutes after that, a car appears and parks next to the Renault Clio, in which Nestor was with Catalina's body. A man gets out of that other vehicle and goes towards the Renault Clio. What can be understood from the footage is that the unidentified man talks to Nestor and then returns to the vehicle. Shortly afterwards, Nestor sets fire to the Renault Clio and returns to his apartment. According to the police, Nestor said he returned to his apartment on foot, but this was not possible, as the distance from where the car was abandoned to his apartment was almost 1.86 miles, and it would have taken him around 25 minutes to return, but it only took him 4 minutes to get back to the apartment. Therefore, the police believed that Nestor had help from someone who was in a vehicle. It is not known whether this person simply helped Nestor return to the apartment or whether he also had a direct role in the crime. So far, Nestor claims that he acted alone and that there is no other person involved in the case. Authorities continue their investigations and hope to find this possible accomplice soon. Currently, Nestor Daniel Aguilar Soto is imprisoned in a medium-security prison in Argentina. According to sources, his trial will take place between the end of 2024 or beginning of 2025. If Nestor is convicted, he is likely to receive the maximum sentence allowed in Argentina, which is life in prison.